is hoping to exploit. The games have begun. It is a best of 3 starting on Lightshade in the top left. Repping DPG, he is the blue Protoss, Zest.
And over down in the bottom right-hand side from Team NV, our red Terran player is Maru. Okay, Zombie Grub, look at this, an SCV already going out across the map, and why not make it a double? As Maru wants to go double racks over on the left-hand side. Typically in TVP, we're going to get a few Marines out here, try and maybe get a bunker up or so, and just work our way forward from there.
Kind of an infamous spot at this point, isn't it? Hopefully Zest actually checks all the way back there. It's a little, I guess, farther than the last time Maru was able to proxy on this map, but still, Zest first has to actually be checking for those proxies. I mean, obviously the probe comes across the map, sees, hey, you don't have a barracks, as most professional Protosses are pretty quick on that probe scout. But by then you might have already chosen, you know, you might have a little bit later for some X-Core. This actually looks perfectly timed or kind of close to it. As you can see, like, he's going to be banking up the 400 minerals, so as he double confirms, like, oh, you're not hiding the barracks anywhere, well, now he's going to be like, okay, I got to stop down the 7 X-Core and the second gateway, taking it very seriously indeed.
But that's just a good read, right? Because he sees the gas timing of Maru and he knows, right, this isn't a fast Reaper or anything. This has got to be a second barracks. He knows this build, and he'll be aware that Marines are coming. In that case, a second gateway is perfect because you just want to shut down the Marine pressure. You might have to break out of a bunker. And this actually gives you so much potential to counterattack when the Terran's 2 main production structures early in this game on the wrong side of the map.
Yeah, they might be able to get that factory back at home, which is a great defensive structure, basically. It's all encompassing, but it's going to be like 1 or 2 units if this is actually held very well. Zest so far with only a Zealot is going to be out microed. And this Zealot is not going to try and just swipe at the 1 SCV building. There are 3 overall after all. The bunker is going to complete. It's the high ground that's a little more in question. That pylon looking, I mean, important to power the shield battery, but there's a second pylon powering these double stalkers that are coming out. And stalkers are absolute kings against Marines. It's the bunker that's a little more troublesome.
Love that little pylon block as well. Just going to stop a full wall off, and this means that you can complicate things with this Zealot because there are no defensive units at home. Maru's just now sending 1 Marine back, and he actually does get a depot down to fully wall in the end. He'll still pressure this a little bit, and maybe if that SCV does run over the other side, we might have to say goodbye to that. As the Stalkers come down, they want the SCV, but they will not get it. I say as now it does go down. So now you get that SCV kill, but even still going to take a while to break that bunker. This depot's just going to go down as it finishes, so you don't even get a cancel off. And now these SCVs might be in a little bit of bother down on the low ground.
Yeah, sure is expecting that, hoping to get the repair into the last second. So a couple more SCVs will go down. Even the probe tasering the Marine is trying to be a hero. It should actually end this way as SCVs get killed. Zest just takes that and kind of runs with it. But it's kind of amazing that he got so much extra. Now slapping down his Nexus and then continuing the aggression. The high ground vision still granted by this pylon as long as it lives. The Stalkers are going to try and get a couple of shots. Nah, I think the pylon's going to go down. They might still play around, right? Yeah. But it's getting more dangerous.
It is getting more dangerous, but I think until that bunker truly goes up, I think it's okay. This probe, okay, doesn't get the Widow Mine to go off, which means that now these Stalkers can't go up because you would just lose a Stalker. That just is not worthwhile. A bit of shield damage, a bit of hull damage, you can deal with that. It's finally time to tech up for Zest back at home. Going into that Twilight Council, Maru gets his starport off. We're expecting this to turn into probably a Widow Mine drop, and then we'll see where he goes from there. As for the moment, a CC starts, and that's worth mentioning, right? Just how late this command center is compared to usual, even in comparison to the later Nexus of the Protoss.
Yeah, and it's also on that high ground, so a little more awkwardness, a little more of a delay. Zest also warps in a sentry as the one weakness of this follow-up is that it doesn't have a whole lot of scouting until the robo's done. Observer gets across the map. Well, warping a sentry pretty quick, and it pretty much already has an hallucination. Because what Maru follows up with can be very tricky to read into. This guy has definitely been experimenting a lot. He's even been pushing some of the envelope for this matchup. So, you know, the scouting's pretty important. I'm really glad to see that addition. And then once Blink's done, he's going to take control of the map.
Maru is really, saying, hey, I'm not in the best position here. That bunker on the low ground, making sure the CC can go down. He knows he just doesn't have a lot of holding potential because his factory is only just now getting a tech lab. This is going to be his first siege tank of the game. I mean, he's really reliant on those Widow Mines to keep the units of Zest back. Otherwise, at home, these handful of Marines, they just will not get a lot done, especially as Zest gets ever close to that Blink upgrade.
Zest knows he's going to have to be on lookout for a Widow Mine drop, and then probably also cautious of what could be coming up the middle of the map if Maru tries to go for a 1-2 punch. It would be dangerous. Zest has a decent amount of units. Blink is over halfway done. He's actually going to try and go for it. Blink isn't done, but that medevac gets taken down. This is going to do absolutely no damage. You don't even really have to worry about it. And the Observer, I believe, just popped in case there was an armory. There is not, so easy cleanup.
I just don't get it. For a moment, I was like, well, maybe he thinks Zest moved back or he's not paying attention, but even then, you could just shoot down the medevac before anything came out, so what would that have mattered? Not the best decision there from Maru, and I gotta say that this early game has just fallen so far off for him. He's not achieved anything with any of his aggression. Zest has recovered well from anything he did get done, such as that little bunker contain, and Maru is the one that's now going to be under so much more pressure as Zest says, I'm going to take a third base, get my Templar archives. I'm not just teching up, but I'm getting more economy. I mean, Zest is just running away with map number 1.
It's up 15 probes as the orbital just recently finished. He's got a little bit of a fake warp prism, some actually just distractions, hoping to get some units to go over to the right side where perhaps he actually blinks up to the top. And is it going to be successful is the question. The Raven is responding, which we'll actually see. Yep, that's a hallucination. But there's just honestly not that much to begin with. So the Marines are really out of position. The tank was. The Stalkers get some damage done, force out the auto turret, and are going to be pushed away, but it's a very minimal investment from Zest.
Yeah, I love getting the Raven at least to put its auto turret down because that energy is something you oftentimes rely on, right, as the Terran player to maybe make a push work in a position like this. Not that I think anything that Maru does right now would really have much of an impact. I mean, Zest is going to have Storm ready, which means you'll have High Tempo on the map. You could feed back the Raven if it gets energy back. I really don't see what sort of timing Maru could even look for here. Like, he's going to have his bio upgrades finished after Storm, so you can't get aggressive or anything. There's just no real option, and by the time he does get aggressive, there's going to be a real-life Warp Prism on the map this time.
Yeah, a real one. They're pretty good when they're real.
Yeah, they're great.
The 2-base SCV pool that could be an option in some other games really is negated by the Storm as well. Like, SCV pools against mass charge lots, that's actually pretty good. Like, they're soaking the damage, they're tanking. Against the Colossus, also similar thing, they're tanking, but Splash literally hits everything that it's shooting. Its placement is down. So SCV pools don't do so well here, and that's kind of the one thing that I would say is possible after a start like this. We are still on 2 bases for Maru. We went up to 5 barracks, so it feels increasingly likely. I just don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's going to attack, right? What else could he possibly think to do in this game? There's just, when the game goes this badly for you, trying to macro it up, just usually the better option is to say, hey, I hope you're being overly greedy. I hope you make a mistake on the defense. Because if you let it go to macro game, Zest is then going to feel confident to be on the map, to be the one making the plays. And that just puts you even further behind when you're already behind. So I like Maru's approach as Stalkers take a bit of a clash. Here comes the first storm of the game, and it's beautiful! Zombie grab, no! Everything's dying from Maru.
I mean, who does that? Who puts all 4 High Templar on the front lines with the Warp Prism not even close to save them in case they took on more than they can chew? Apparently Zest does. So Maru's like, okay, geez, I'm going to back away. But that just means that Zest continues to hold on to the map. He still has so much knowledge as well. Even microing away the Observer, all right, he does lose it, but I think he's got the right impression here, and he's not scared at all. He's actually going to push into the guy who's 2-basing.
I know, this is like your 2-base goal in, can't even leave your 2 bases. How bad does that feel? That one with a mine actually ends up going down as well. And now Zest is actually going to be on Maru's natural, and Maru's going to have to run back up a ramp into this. I mean, the good news is there wasn't many zealots or anything here, but here they come. Now Zest has pretty much a complete army. The force fields are beautiful as well. The medevacs have to lift up what they can, but this game has been destined to go in Zest's favor for quite a while, and we're kind of just seeing that play out right now. Maru, the 2-base attempt, doesn't even get out of his side of the map.
He loses the 2-base all in before it even starts. Zest, feeling super confident, just decides to push into the guy, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong. The only thing that he was in deficit was that, +1 weapons, only halfway done, so no armor on his zealots either, but it just didn't matter. The splash was so good from the Storm. He's taking a 4th Nexus, while Maru is, still clearly trying to do something on 2 bases. I mean, I'm actually surprised that Maru's still chilling, maybe hoping that the Warp Prism would miss micro, and it almost happens. Drops the Storm, doesn't actually get it off, but the Warp Prism lives. And that was, that's pretty much the only thing you can hope to happen, is that Zest just loses every High Templar and every other unit, I guess, before he actually reacts.
I mean, it got close to happening, right? And maybe if you remove the splash damage, you have some hope. maybe a couple good Widowmine shots soften up the Archons and Zealots, and you can go from there. Oh no, Maru, you're on the wrong side of your base again. The tank's going to make Zest back it up. He does now land the second force field. That Immortal low ground goes down. With a couple of lips sieging up, Maru will continue to survive. But he really is just about surviving, hoping Zest overcommits into him. It's definitely not a bad way to play this because, I mean, he just can't get out on the map. So let Zest fight into you. Hope he underestimates the Liberators. I mean, at this stage, though, Zest is expanding further, upgrading further, and just teching further as well. There's the Robo Bay, just to make life even more difficult for Maru here at the end. I mean, this is going to be what, a Storm Drop in the mineral line? Just get rid of some of the very little economy that Maru has too.
I really feel like Zest is like, get out of this game, kid. Get out of the game. What are you doing? It's definitely one-sided. I mean, you might be looking at this and being like, oh, isn't Zest kind of playing with fire? Like, why is he pushing into the guy that's about to be pushing into him? But honestly, he's also just taken away the ability of Maru to even get a concave, to even try and micro against Storms, because we know he's actually very good against Charge Lot Storm and makes it sometimes look totally useless. But if you're already choked up in your own natural base, I mean, that's actually where it's going to look the best against anyone. Looks like we got ourselves a mini, like, base trade. Maru's going to be like, okay, you're going to chase me. But, like, you know, that I guess base trades are always the thing that makes the game weird. And here's some Widow Mines popping off. I mean, seriously popping off.
Yeah.
But Zest is still up 60 supply.
I know. He's going to try and use the Liberators to cover and stop Zest catching up. But Zest is like, I'll just recall him. But it does go off. No way! I mean, now he's going to have a flank from every angle. Maru just lives to try and get out of there. He will get the bio out, but the Liberators are going down. And Maru knows that he had to get something done in that situation. And he just didn't do anything. And honestly, not just then, but all game long, it was just failure after failure for Maru. Nothing right for him in this game.
Absolutely nothing. But I love that he tried. I mean, not just staying in the game as long as he did, but that last little maneuver there, you could see how it could work out. If he got the snipe in the Nexus, then the only army that's coming through is where the Liberators are sieged up. Then you got to take that seriously, and at least it buys the army some time to do some serious damage, or it actually wins an engagement. I don't think he had that many Liberators, but let's say that's possible. Like, it's good last-second decision, the, oh, I'm pretty screwed decision, but it was already a very poor game for Maru, so he just, he tried his best. Went up to 12 minutes, but it was kind of over at minute 5.
Yeah, it was kind of like the end of that Reynold versus Zest series as well, where Reynold was kind of dead for the last 5-10 minutes. But Zest, like, that must be Zest feeling right now. He's like, why don't people leave the game against me? Like, do they really think I'm going to mess this up?
Maybe.
Yeah, at this point, I guess that's how you feel. Yeah, no, I mean, just everything was well handled. Zest had a good response to this early game. I do not understand this Widowmine drop movement. Like, there must have been something. He must have just believed he could have snuck by those Stalkers that little bit and maybe got top left, and maybe then you can go natural or main, and maybe he just likes it that much better. But yeah, once these storms start dropping on your base and you're the 2-base player, it does not feel good at all.
Yeah, that's just actually kind of silly. He didn't even get to do his 2-base all lane before Zest, already on 3 bases, was bullying him. The only difference was upgrades, and the upgrades just simply don't really matter for Storm. So Zest, he really controlled that excellent from beginning to end. And it wasn't even like a lack of killer instinct that was kind of an issue in that Raynor Zest game, right? Like, you could just be like, yeah, he could have A moved. Yeah, he was like, he was actually continuously attacking Maru, being like, yeah, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. So I did not see any way for Maru to make that comeback.
Neither did I, which is sad to say because, you know, a bit of a Maru fan. I know this is why we kind of got excited about doing the winners match Zombie Grove, because we get to cast Maru versus one of the favorites. But that just really wasn't it at all. You know, he was dead early on. Just didn't work out. Like I said, Zest handled it really well. Love to see what Maru's going to come out with in game number 2, because even when Maru looks a little bit like not good in the first map, it's very rare that the second game shows up and it's like, oh, he's really not playing well today. Like, that's just not what happens with Maru.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you that. He did go down 0-3 versus Trap, but he brought it back.
He brought it back.
That's okay.
Now, he doesn't have the chance to go 0-3 here, but he can start bringing it back right now. Just gonna have to speed up that process a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah,
absolutely. Game's starting, so we're only going to be a moment or two longer before diving on into this second map, Zest versus Maru. I mean, this is a massive series. They talked a bit about it on the desk, but probably having to play Reno if you lose this to advance to the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's really rough. And we know as well what first place can mean in this group. Playing second place against someone else from another group when these groups are so stacked.
That too.
Yeah, it can really, define your future in this tournament.
Yeah, not only is the decider match going to be really close, but then if they do get that slightly worse seed into the actual bracket playoff stage, then it's also something you got to worry about. So to get out here would be so nice, but this guy in the bottom left of 2,000 Atmospheres is already down a game. He is the Red Terran, Maru.
And in the upper right-hand side, he's currently looking like the best. He is Zest, up 1-0. I gotta say, ZG, when they removed the T from Zest on the, on the voting system, I was like, what else could we say? And I guess we just say yes to Zest.
Yes to Zest. Can't. That's too difficult, actually.
That's too difficult. Because
I want to say yes to Zest. I'm just adding
want to add the T anyway?
Yeah.
Well, we can't say yes to Zest, so you're going to have to drop the T at some point.
I do what I want, Wardy. I'm saying yes to Zest. Oh, God. Dude, like, as we don't have a proxy here, right? I mean, we got a probe going out for a scout, but, oh, and we got a new update, I guess.
Yeah, this went from 1-0 to 2-0
yeah,
real quick.
That was real quick, guys.
Did Dream just, like, one SCV rush Lambo to death in game 2? Like, wow.
Yeah, I assume that was a bit of a delayed one, but, yeah, I want to ask, it was cool on the desk when we got to do the intro and do, like, the totally not cringy, excellently delivered, opening segment. That was all cool. But don't you feel so different casting? Like, this is where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad we're back in studio. I feel so good right now.
Because it's just, like, nicer and, like, it's
nicer.
Just fun.
I don't know. Like, I'm not, like, yelling like my parents are hearing me, like, scream about
We're
a
in
game.
a good mood.
Like,
We've had
my
a good
cat's
time.
not, like, walking across my keyboard right now. I can look at you as opposed to that, really questionable looking at the Katowice online, being like, I can see you, Wardy.
What, you mean you didn't like, talking over each other and staring dead on into our cameras for hours on end?
Oh, I really loved having Pig just not even hear me for like 2 seconds. But you know what? This is a little bit better. It's such a relief. Feels so much more energized. And until eventually the players are going to join and then the fans are going to join. And oh my God, it's so hopeful. Oh my God.
We're going to need a lot more party poppers for that one, though.
Oh, wow. What if we get, like, all the players to party pop?
Well, if we get the whole audience to party pop.
I'm pretty sure
that's health and safety.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would cause the fire alarm to go off. I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, and I mean, I was meant to be a responsible party popper, and I full-on headshot Kalaris, so...
You should be playing the PUBG, man, not him. All right, so what do we got in this game then? Zest is opening up with a Stargate, some adept pressure, and Maru took that defense seriously on a map without a ramp. The bunker is down. A little bit of a Hellion opener from him.
Yeah, something to change it up a little bit. I mean, Zest is going for that Stargate, which is just so good defensively, right? And in this sort of situation, I imagine you go Oracle, and then you can follow up with Phoenix, and you just have so many ways to stop these Hellions being as deadly as they can be. So, it's actually going to be 2 Hellions into mines. Still don't mind that. The Oracle can still help against the Hellions. Phoenix behind this would pick up the mines and stop them from going off at all. So, yeah, I mean, I like it for Zest, but I also like this build for Maru. It's regular and it's standard for a reason. We see it a lot. You can out-multitask your opponent as well. Oh. That is a possibility. That pylon ain't going to help you at all, Zest, but the 3 adepts in the natural probably will.
It's such a cool little addition, though, that we've seen him do like on Romanicide as well, where that is a more common entrance into 3 bases. So that particular pylon actually didn't see that much more than the adepts would have at the front. But if it was a straight shot, for instance, then yeah, it would have definitely been the first indicator. But Hellions can't do very much. Oracle's like, there's got to be a Widow Mine, right? Hold on, there's not. So 2 SCVs are going to get zapped to death. Got to be a Widow Mine in the main, right? Ooh. Yeah, there is. That time is true. And Zest is going to control it properly.
Yeah, that was just nicely seen, nicely handled. It's obvious a lot of the time that's behind that refinery, but how often do we still then see the Oracle getting hit by it? This is going to turn into a bit of a disaster saved by the lack of energy. Only 3 SCVs going down. I thought at least a 4th was going to fall, but my mistake, as now a 3rd Nexus drops in from Zest, and he says, well, ready for me to ramp it up, because I've got my Phoenix and Adepts to make sure these Widow Mines don't do anything. Maybe it's time to stop Widow Mine dropping, Maru, because these drops have been an utter disaster. He didn't miss one of the Widow Mines, no!
Well, okay, you were saying, Wardy?
No way, Zest! What was that?
He had everything required to handle that. He could have picked up everything, and instead he missed one, then missed the second one. Didn't pull his probes because he was trying to micro the things that could have stopped it entirely. So 14 probes go down, and it only gets worse, apparently. Wood of Mines in the main base might not get big hits, or maybe they will. No, not big hits, but it's just more lost mining time. 3 more probes. Everything survived as well. Okay, well, now things are really turned around.
Even the Phoenix on the wrong side of the map to immediately clean that up. They've got to pull back, so they can't be aggressive. No, I mean, there's no way they should have done that much damage. I look silly because I was like, it's a disaster, and then it kills 14 workers, but I would happily shout that out loud again, Zombie Grub, because that was not meant to go like that. He thought he was going to kill the first Widow Miners. That's a disaster too. Oh my goodness. At least he lifts these Widow Miners. He missed one. Oh my god, Zest, please. Even Zest is like, what's going on? You know, usually my macros list, but my micros like perfect. But no, I really just want to like, you know, what happened, right? He goes for the first Widow Mine. It doesn't quite die, so it goes off. And because he's like, wait, the first one didn't die, he worries about the others. He doesn't lift them in time. And so they get to go off too. It's just one disaster or one mistake that avalanches snowballs into that full-on disaster. Wow, I mean, what a way for Maru to suddenly just take a massive lead in this game. Equal on workers for Terran with orbitals is fantastic. Army supply, even when most of that army is Phoenix, which can't really do too much in a fight just yet. The game's Widow Mines and what's about to be Stim Marines. Gotta love this position for Maru. Let's see if he can play out of it.
I mean, it's almost to the same point that I'm just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Zest just dies from here.
Yeah.
But, you know, the difference is that it happens a little bit later, so the snowball effect isn't as drastic. Like, Zest does have his third Nexus. He does have some Phoenix, trying to get as much revenge as possible, even though it's over a longer period of time and a lot later. Like, this is where you go, like, well, if he can do this, if he can do that, sure. Maru is going to have a very feisty push as more Widow Mines pop off, and even more being dropped. But it's not quite going to be the dramatic, like, well, Zest right outside of your base with his own storms.
Yeah, absolutely. Another Widow Mine burrows up. Probes are going to pull away. They do just get out of that. Unburrow, reburrow. I don't mind it at all because the DPS there is not good. And now the probes again. Oh, Zest. You know when Roddy says, you know, Zest can, like, you know, lose to someone at 9 a.m. and beat him at 4 p.m.? This is like he loses to some guy at, like, 10:05 and he beats them at, like, 10:10, right? Like, you know, this is the Zest that loses to the Muslim, I think, by the way.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think we're seeing it in action right here, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Even no! I was going to say, even this feels bad with how this game is going, and it was a disaster.
Oh, how many total losses is that? That's got to be
27.
like 30? Oh, okay, 28. You're very close. I went over, so. Oh, that's still so bad. Oh, there's so many things missing. And there's really not a very good comeback unit coming out from Zest either yet. Like, you can say, like, Storm could be a comeback if they're missing EMPs, although against Maru, I don't think that's true. You could say Disruptors, of course, maybe the most obvious. And you could even say, to a degree, Charge Lots, right? If they get, like, a really 6 around and counterattack at the exact right time. But we're talking about, like, Phoenixes and an Oracle, which aren't... They're good at harassment. He's been gaining a little bit here and there and might even find this medevac. That's nice, but it's not enough. It's never going to be enough, and he doesn't even get the medevac.
And he went into Widow Mine as well, so now Phoenix are dropping. I was going to ask you, Zombie Grub, isn't it kind of interesting that Zest is going Blink? Because usually after Phoenix, you just go Charge, and I guess this just went so badly wrong. He's like, I die if I try and go Charge lots. I don't have the support for them maybe, or I don't get the numbers up in time because my economy isn't good enough. So I guess he's just going to try and play Blink Stalkers because they have a bit more micro ability to actually trade out better. Like, that's my best guess. It's just so weird to go Blink after Phoenix.
I think you're actually right, though. I feel like it is one of those things where even though Zealots, like, the only thing they can ever do is really get, like, a 6 around. But if it is just like, I'm behind, you're ahead, you're Maru, you have control, the Zealots aren't really going to add much back and forth. Where the Stalkers, you know, some force fields buying some time, I think that's what he would like to do. Maybe that can actually do something, and there are those force fields. It's still going to be problematic because eventually those will disappear, and Widow Mines in the main base again, not caring about the cannon, get 11 more probe kills. And Maru is just going to bide his time being like, yeah, okay, force field me out. That's fine.
Every single one of those Widow Mines, it was just like slow-mo. It's like number 1, number 2, and number 3 and 4 just followed as well. There is a Colossus. I mean, that's got to be the saving grace of Zest, if anything. Widow Mines get lifted up going into this fight. One does hit the Phoenix, but they get to survive. So those mines are lifted. Zest pushes this back for the moment. It really feels like Maru is going to get to a point where he might just overrun Zest still on 2 Colossi or so. That still feels like something that might be scary, especially now he's going to cut Widow Mine production because we're at the stage where against Stalker Colossus, Widow Mines just aren't that great, but 5 Marauders at a time definitely are.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to point out. It's like, maybe you watch that defense and you're like, oh, it was like a 30 supply difference. Like, that's recoverable, right? And it's like, yeah, sure, but 5 Marauders at a time, that army doesn't ever die to Colossus, it feels like. The Immortals become really important here, but you can only afford so much. They can only ever get so much done, honestly. A big drop into the main base is also something that Maru can continue to do. He's just going to have more units to spread around. So the drop in the main might not be what actually ends the game, especially as Zest cleans it up fairly quickly. Good blink. The Phoenix is still around, too, to chase some of these units down, but there's always an attack somewhere else, and that's where Zest is going to have a lot of trouble defending.
He just instantly posts that super battery. Maru's like, I'm going to bait you out of it. If you want to chase me, you can, but I'll turn and fight. Maru lost a lot on that drop. Nothing got out alive by, that one single medevac that just got away from the Phoenix then? Now these Widow Mines are just going to get cleaned up without too much issue as well. Okay, they get one shot off, but even then it's just splash damage. Didn't actually kill the Stalker, which blinked away. So, I mean, Zest is getting a decent cleanup. Issue right now, that supply block is going to be massive. He can't warp in for a good 20 seconds or more. I
will say that Zest has actually done an incredible job in the face of such, mental adversity. Every one of mine, it feels like, has been a problem. And yet his resources loss is actually quite good. He handled some of the first pushes quite well, buying time, getting to the appropriate technology. And the Stalker count, it wasn't just like, oh, I guess they have some more flexibility. The numbers were actually quite good as well. So it's actually an impressive game for Zest, as he has lost so much and it was always happening too. But as we come closer to, I guess, minute 12 or 13 even, if Zest is still holding on like this, he'll at least even up the supply. They'll both get max, and that's a great equalizer. Other things might still be going troublesome for him, but this is definitely some real comeback potential.
Yeah, no, it's... I'm impressed he's still alive, because usually when the game goes that wrong that early, people just die when they're playing Protoss, especially against Maru. And he really did survive. He made some weirder choices, which maybe played into it a little bit as well, maybe did help him out. And now we've got Shadow Stride about to finish, comeback potential. I can see it, right? Maru only needs one bad fight, and Zest is absolutely in this. One bad fight, some DT strike elsewhere at the same time. I mean, that's the combination we're missing to see this game swing back into Zest's favor. So let's see if we can do it. Maru just now finishing up his +2 attack. That's going to be nice against what is still 0 armor upgrades from Zest. His first just moments away.
Here come the DTs, though. They're going to cause some havoc. I also love that he's adding in a lot of Immortals, because he already had a few, so he's going up to 5, and then Disruptors, where maybe we'd see some other Protosses go straight to Disruptors after one Immortal. The DTs are going to find, an avenue, perhaps. The Natural has a missile turret, but not a whole lot of units. He's going to split them up into every single base that he possibly can. That first one wasn't too impressive, and the second one looks to be caught as well. That's also just attention diverted from Maru, and Zest is going to try and capitalize on it. Blinks forward, takes out a medevac, and might not be responding to this one. This is the problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw that army still on the left side, and I thought that's going to be where he does it. But Maru even then hesitated a little bit. Didn't get there as quickly as he maybe should have done, so he doesn't quite fully capitalize. He will cancel the top left base as this is going on. But yeah, this could have been so much worse.
4th Nexus is going to be difficult no matter where he placed it. I think if he does get up to max, however, and he's getting there, then he will eventually get a 4th Nexus. But that's the still the downfall of the earlier game. In effect, he's going to have less bases, less bank, perhaps less upgrades than he does 2-1 against 2-2. But 3-3 on the way for Maru. But Zest is actually going to try and go right up the middle and kill Maru before the rest of his army joins up. 2 Elucidated Colossus might look a little funny, especially with the scan. But once the scan dissipates, that actually affects the AI of the army. Here comes the final battle. EMPs every which way. It becomes a full concave for Maru as well. That is a feisty Protoss army, but I think the number of units from Maru is just too much. The surround was too damn good, and Zest is not bringing this game back. It's going to be a tied series.
Wow, I mean, everything about that fight. I kind of giggled because the Colossi pop-up hallucinate, and that second Maru scans, and I'm like, okay, that's a little comical. But then Maru is everywhere. Talk about a 360 surround. Maybe he didn't have anything from the upper right, but he really had what he needed to fight that, and some EMPs there were amazing. Those one EMP that hit all 3 Immortals, instantly shields gone, barriers popped, and that's just so much tankiness you suddenly lose from that army, and that makes such a big difference in some of these fights, because that just changes how quickly you get on top of those Colossi.
Yeah.
and then you have so much more bio left over. That's the difference sometimes between even like 40 supply left of the Terran and no supply left of the Terran.
I really think Zest was hoping to find Maru's little attack army, the one that killed the fourth.
How does this do damage, by the way? Actually, how does this do damage? Like, what was... I just don't believe that. That's incredible.
Yeah, but the other army that was supposed to be out and about did come home for that beautiful surround. So that's what Zest is kind of hoping not to have happen. But this is all the stuff that had already gone wrong for Zest. I mean, to be able to get back to the position that he was in, to have a decent army, and, you know, was trying to expand until he just decided to go for the attack. I mean, that's... After that opening, I am still impressed with Zest, but Maru... I mean, he knows how to finish games most of the time, and this was one of them.
You know, just the fact that he was out on the map with those units all the time allowed him to then create that surround at the end as well. And that's just the power of map control, just being a threat. It was an opportunity for him to counterattack in. It was an opportunity to defend when he needed to defend. He really made sure his units were never too far away to join the fight. And that's obviously what was really great about his play at the very end there. Dodged some disruptors and set us up for Romanticide for Game 3. We all know how much fun Romanticide can get to be, so... excited for that. CG, we didn't get to predict when this started off.
Oh no, I missed predictions.
Did you have a favor?
I love predictions so much.
You love predictions?
I want to do it.
You want to do them again? Yeah, I know.
I was probably going to go with Zest, but I think it's really, like, it's pretty much just, it's me being a fangirl.
Yeah.
I really like Zest, and I really like his play, especially, like, I copy most of the time his PVT. Because it, you know, can a lot of the time be that mass gateway style. Not so much here. The first game, it wasn't really about his style. He just defended well. In the second game, it was a Stargate style, but still. I always love watching this guy play PVT, so I was going to say Zest 2-1.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, I can get behind that. I think I would have probably said Maru. Terran bias coming through.
Yeah, what's the deal here? I have to be the Protoss, I guess, because otherwise it's two Terrans.
I just didn't realize Zest was a possibility of being a grubba-lubba-dubba-dub.
To be honest, Swarty, I just didn't see him on the available players. I had the chance. Whoopsie-daisy.
Whoopsies. All right, let's intro the guy in the top left-hand side then from Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Let's hope his micro-early game is that little bit better. That's what it needs to be if he wants to win this series. It is Zest.
In the bottom right, as the red Terran for Team Envy, he is Maru.
You know, as much as I, maybe was cheering for Maru or like favored Maru, it was painful to see all of those Widow Mines just connecting again and again, because that's not the kind of game I want to see between these two, right? I want to see these two get past the first 5-10 minutes without taking damage and go into that really long macro game, go back and forth a little bit. And obviously when those Widow Mines start connecting, then they keep connecting, that's just not going to happen. All as you wouldn't think. Zest made a good go of it. Maru still had control of the game. Love the little bit of a mind game here from Maru, right? You put one Rax just out to the left-hand side. It's not actually a proxy, but it could be, right? As far as Zest goes right now, we'll see if he checks over there. I mean, this is already potentially going to force the Zealot. Nope, he's just going to Nexus up straight away. I guess he sees the double gas. He knows it's not double Rax, so...
Right.
Yeah, I mean, in that regard, yeah, he's okay to put it down. We'll see if he still wants to add something in here later to potentially defend. He sees nothing right now, but he will see the factory in the main.
He's actually not even bothering to get that Zealot that we'd usually see, just to buy some shots and distract the Reaper micro.
Stop a bunker as well, especially.
Stop a bunker, that's true, yeah. No, he's actually gone for Cybernetics Core, the Nexus, sure, but still, the Nexus right into the Stalker. I mean, either he's very confident in his probe micro against a proxied Reaper, or he just was... kind of, I guess, calling Maru's bluff a little bit, being like, nah, I don't think so. Well, either way, he is correct to do what he did, and the Stalker will be out. I'm double-checking him to see if he did check. He really didn't check for that usual proxy barracks location, so it's a good guess.
No, it was just good read of the game, right? Just good effort from Zest so far. Hasn't been caught off guard, and Maru, I mean, it doesn't cost Maru much to do this either, right? As he hops up here, he'll hop back down. It doesn't cost him much either, because you're basically just saying my Rax has to float back. Maybe a bit of a delayed tech lab or so, or reactor in this case, but that's something you're kind of working your build around here anyway. Maybe you're missing a Marine or two for the idea of that mind game, so it's not that expensive. A robot first from Zest, and you know what Zest loves to do, ZG? He loves that bit of Warp Prism speed. He loves that little bit of a Colossus drop every now and then. Do you think it's possible?
Yes. I'm going to say yes, I think it's possible. Only because I want it to be the case. It's fun, but also just I I mean, I've never really been the biggest fan of that Robo just right in a Colossus play, right? It's ultimately a very defensive maneuver and doesn't provide that flexibility to kind of be aggressive out in the map like a Twilight Council or a Stargate does. So, I mean, it does one thing very well, and that's defend against all types of follow-ups. But, you know, a Stargate kind of does that, and as long as it's like a really fast follow-up, a Twilight Council can also be fine. And we know that it is not a particularly fast follow-up. Maru did expand after that factory. Zest, not with the same information here.
He's actually just playing super defensive.
Yeah.
This is something Hostum actually loved to do for a long time. He was like one of the real people who stood by this Robo Open in PvT. And he always said one thing you have to do with this is take no damage because you have no way to counter damage. You're kind of paying to be super safe. You're buying observers early game. That's why all your money's going into information and knowledge of how to defend. So you can't actually take damage from this because if you do, you're basically just going to be behind because you're meant to be able to defend this perfectly. Let's see how it goes. First mine down, second mine will be killed. Medevac survived and takes a mine into the main, but it looks as though this is going to be a pretty good cleanup from Zest, and so far doing exactly what he needs in this situation. He's even got the Observer here, so he does get the kill in time. Medevac out alive. And yeah, I mean, Robo Bay, so triple Observer, really a lot of money spent there. And now the Robo Bay just to go straight into Colossus production, and he just will not have any map control, any mobility that we're used to seeing in these situations.
He won't have that, but I will say that even if this might be a little based, you know, or a lot actually, it could be based off of the opener and the lack of follow-up scouting. It's also, I guess, fair enough on Romano's side. Like, there's really only one place to push for a little while, down the middle, then it does open up a little bit later on, but still, once you commit through the middle or the right as the Terran, like, you are committed. So, as far as not taking any damage on 3 bases, this map is set up for that. And sure, that might have Maru also being like, well, I'm not being attacked either, so I can do what I want. That's great, but I think that Zest can be comfortable in this scenario. He is a flexible player. Maru goes for a Raven, which is, you know, cool and it makes sense. It's going to take out the Colossus. But he also goes for a second Raven in this matchup, which is a little bit of a twist.
Yeah, I guess because he wants to use this one so aggressively, and maybe, could it possibly be something along the lines of he thinks he can just get 2 out because it's a Colossus opener, so he's not under as much threat. You can get 2, and then you've got a lot of energy to shut down a lot of Colossus for one big push. Maybe. It's so hard to tell because what Zest is doing is just not something we see Protoss players do that often. It's hard to know what the Terrans like to respond with against this.
Wow, he's not even getting Blink, too. So, you know, there's usually that anti-air component that also is able to move around very quickly where the Colossus cannot. So Phoenix or Blink Stalkers. And Blink Stalkers also help to defend the Colossus. Now, in this case, he is taking perhaps a bit of a risk. He's going to have a very powerful army when it comes to direct engagements, but he could be outmaneuvered. That's, again, maybe back to the map. Like, he feels like he's not going to get outmaneuvered on this map.
Yeah, Ramanda's side is that map, which is very defensive naturally. You take your bases fairly easily. I can see that. We're going to see that second Raven swinging into the third base. Obviously, Maru is not afraid to use his Raven energy yet, so whatever he's planning later with these Ravens, he says it's not going to be for a little while because these Ravens are going to get to harass, then get energy back before the big push, which is, I gotta imagine, is going to be when all these upgrades finish, right? He's at least going to go for something. He'll have a good tank count by then as well. If those tanks can get in position and you can force that position with matrices from the Ravens, it's very, very possible he can just get on top of a base, and that would be really, really difficult for Zest to break.
Zest has been kicking butt in the economy. He's been up over like a 17 probes just about, and he is winning in the income graph. Not by like a super substantial amount, but definitely winning. And he is getting all of these chances to get to a solid army, one that if it knows where Maru is coming in from, has a very good chance to defend, buy time, set up some run-bys, set up some surrounds, and defend. And he might even actually get to a second form of Splash, which really helps the Protoss. So Storm can be it for Zest, as you saw in the first game. But a lot of Protosses, when they reach this stage, is actually right into the Disruptors. And that might be what he's going to do.
Yeah, no, definitely a possibility as we just have a Marine cleaned out right there.
No second Robo, so yeah, it's going to be Storm.
Yeah, couple archives coming up. Well, I mean, Maru is... I mean, now is the time. If Maru was ever going to push, now would be it. But he just does 4th commands. And of course, if there is a Terran who sometimes likes to just sit back and let the game play out, that is kind of Maru as well. He's very confident in his ability to play late game.
Yes, he is. And at a certain point in super, the latest PvP that ever existed, Battlecruisers are pretty good. I don't think we're gonna get there. That's really reaching, but those are pretty good. Otherwise, we're talking about that, Ghost, Liberator, Marauder count position with Vikings, of course, as well. Yeah, he's one of the best at handling it and reading the scenarios. We could actually see some nukes also go down, as Romanicide has proven to be living up to the expectation of a macro map. Maru is not even doing a push at all.
He is just chilling. Ghost Academy, masses of turrets. Armory, and maybe a little bit late 2-2. Maybe could have started a bit sooner. He's got the gas for it. But yeah, I mean, this obviously just lets Zest do whatever he wants to as well. Storm's finishing. Dark Shrine is going down right away. He'll finally add in that Blink, which he totally went into and didn't get punished for missing, right? So, yeah, I mean, what a weird game. Like, they both signed up to just never attack each other. Like, did we miss the No Rush 20 notification in the lobby? Because
maybe we did.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. There was a Widow Mine drop, and that has been about all.
Yeah, I guess the expectation from Maru is that he wouldn't be able to break a guy like Zest when he, didn't really do any damage. And, really the damage that was done was perhaps forcing Zest to make a different build order decision. But if that's the case, we can't quite know, because this build order as is, it's worked. Zest is totally fine. Maru's totally fine. We get to see what the late game control is like. A little bit of scuffles finally happening. Some clearing up of pylons, some attempted, setups of run-bys. We're still at that point, though, in Romanicide where it's really hard to actually get some damage to those initial 3 bases. The 4th will be a planetary for Maru as well. But eventually, we're going to see some action on the map, and that's when Zest, DT Blink, mass charge lot run-bys could be problematic.
Are you a little bit surprised that Maru only went 2 Vikings in the end? Do you think that's just as confident as Ravens being able to deal with the Colossus? Because I know Zest kind of could have 2 Colossus, just I thought Maru would have had a better response on Vikings initially because it was Colossus so quickly.
Yeah, I think it is the Ravens, honestly. Yeah. I mean, it's very dangerous, though, because High Templars are out. They can feed back the Ravens, and then you want the firepower of the air to take down the Colossus as fast as possible. And 2, now 4 Vikings just really, that's not going to kill anything very quickly.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's going to be extremely slow, and maybe they even die before they get a Colossus. Very possible, too. Going to go into Liberators now, so really not too bothered. He's got a good defense across the board, but Zealots are going to break in. Surprised Zest isn't moving from the left side at the same time. Maybe just waiting for the right moment. Now he sees more units on the right, but probably too late to make a move. Yeah, Maru, he's scanning. He was watching that army to make sure it was not moving in, making sure he'd be able to respond perfectly in that situation. And 3 command centers coming up. Oh, well, ZG, I really asked for like a late game after game 2.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, we're getting it, huh?
We are absolutely doing it on a map that encourages it, but usually not to this point in TVP. It's kind of a rarity to have just no push out from either side, no, blink to even start some scuffles. It's Zest trying to look for openings, and he did see perhaps a little bit of a vulnerability here in the natural, but now the Liberators are also here. It is still about distracting. DT's Blink on top of the tanks, on top of the planetary. The mass SCV repair is going to be good enough this time around, however. And that was a pretty nasty loss of DTs. This army might be overstaying its welcome as well. EMP hit that and kind of just scares it away.
Yeah, man, those DTs, that was a lot of DTs as well. And I was like, no, Maru, you just moved some tanks away. But they actually were able to turn around, come back, and single target fire. And yeah, he didn't get the turret, right? So that planetary doesn't go down. And all of a sudden, Zest loses a whole bunch of money on DTs. Maru just, he's actually kind of trailing behind a little bit on that +2 armor. It's going to finish up soon. Zest way ahead on +3 attack also. I mean, Maru's just happy to sit this back. At some stage, he needs to fight out toward a 5th base, which he might even do on like the left-hand side, that forward base there, rather than going to the right. That's typically going to be a bit better against a Protoss player. You can leave the wall up on the natural to stop any Zealot run-bys, and then you're only really watching for the main army fight coming at you from the left-hand side still. So it's just a good way to defend 2 bases at once here, perhaps. Yeah. We'll see where he goes eventually. I mean, he's got a heck of a lot of command centers to move out at some stage.
It also helps that when he eventually pushes, it's him siege at his defense, and then it's like just like a skip over to Zest expansions, and that's what you want with siege units, which he's going to be making more and more of. He did make a decent amount of tanks. Now he's going to be making a lot of Liberators, as he is working on that +1 ship. That finishes. +2 ship weapons, one of the more important ones. It takes a kill shot away from the Stalkers, but this just a decent way of giving up some supply, but also might be able to take down, actually, even a Nexus, since Zest really doesn't respond. Not this one, though. This just probes or a pylon that won't actually die.
Yeah, Super Battery keeping that alive a while. Mass depower on the gateways, but those units will go down. Maru just instantly says bye-bye bio and hello Liberator Ghost, and that's what he's going to keep on doing, essentially. Man, Zest was just setting up. He actually was stuck on 160 supply for a long time, but he wasn't really stuck. He just took that chance to invest into 2 more robos, a Stargate, maybe a Fleet Beacon here soon, and also just the triple robo. So now he's got all of this production. He's set to produce for the late game. Still maybe a little worried, but I guess Maru ain't moving out, so his lack of supply ain't going to hurt him just yet. And there's that Fleet Beacon, because at the end of the day here, we're probably expecting to get into some maybe carriers. He might, because of the Liberator count rising, go Tempest first.
That's the problem that Protosses will eventually face, is that they either have to control the game so well that the Stalkers always catch the Liberators out of position, or they have to accept defeat and actually go into their own Stargate, which I think that is the plan here for Zest, as he's, again, keeping that supply open, basically, for the choices here, for the reinforcements, should he need them. Maru is going to push to the forward position. I mean, I think I actually agreed on your points about the left forward position, but I mean, heck, we haven't seen him double expand at some point. He's got 3 more command centers on the way. His upgrade's finally finishing. Our first nuke on the board. Very excited for that one.
Yeah, to be fair, this position is maybe not so bad because he actually has double planetary on the 6 o'clock.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
In that case, is the main army going to fight in there? With a few tanks behind it? Maybe not. Is that the quadruple prism? Oh my god.
Oh my god, with speed. There is nothing. Well, actually, if 2 Wood-Mines are in the same location, we just like pop everything. But anyways, that is gonna get through. And he has 30 supply to invest into the Warpins. He's gonna cause so much havoc in the main. I mean, the Vikings will take down 1 Warp Prism pretty quickly.
The Matrix!
I don't even remember they had those Ravens.
Yeah.
Oh, they did nothing.
This was the plan.
Yeah, that was the plan.
That was he knew about the 4 prism attack, and he was just like, you know what? Double Raven, gonna shut that down beautifully. Triple Matrix if I need it. Yes, please and thank you. They're the carriers from Zest. I mean, that was another disastrous attack, though. That's like twice now. He's invested quite a lot of money into attacks. DTs that didn't do much. Quadruple Prism that does nothing at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit inefficient so far. I gotta say, the resources lost is 11,000 to 5,000.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
That's gonna eat into Zest the later this game goes.
Because we are getting to, I mean, we seem to be in a game that could, even on a big map with many resources, like Romanicide, it could actually come down to something like, wow, I really wish I had 5,000, 10,000 extra resources.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just face value, right? You're going to want more resources. That's a given. But, yeah, this could actually be like some of the last mining going down in this type of game. Nukes are in play. More starports are coming out. We might even see Maru start adding on battle cruisers one at a time, as he will eventually have to combat a late-game air army from Zest. Our first nuke is finally being called down. It is seen, though, but it's all about distractions when it comes to nukes. Hopefully the nuke lands, and it does. 6 probes go down, but also the attack on the left. Gonna find a High Templar or 2, and then, yeah, a lot more probes go down.
That's the entire mineral line and a good amount of units that were warped in. Nice that he jumped on that pylon straight away, took down the static defense. And now that Maru's expanded once, look how quickly he keeps on expanding, because he's no longer just the defensive play. He's putting the pressure on. And now that he's got this right side established, he knows he can keep that right side established. And that's what he's working on with that 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock base on the far top right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, so far, I gotta say, this has been a beautifully played game by Maru. Zest has definitely just had the messier game. Some attacks that didn't work, hasn't been able to deal with the aggression that has shown up from Maru super well all of the time. He's got a lot of money in the bank. He isn't quite maxed out yet. He's getting to carriers. I like the composition he's going to, but if Maru can deal with that somewhat well, the advantage he has from the resources lost this early in the game already is really going to come into play as well. That Observer gets away, then that's why you get Observer speed, as these medevacs are going on a suicide mission.
Yep, they want to die. Just kill them.
But you got a way to get rid of them as well. It's like, hey, quick, respond to this drop. Nod, nod, wink, wink, you know? As we see a nuke lining up, this one is not going to go far, as that goes to even try to cancel an EMP, but he missed the opportunity. Yeah, he let it slip.
Maru is just going to go for one of the finest late-game compositions under battlecruisers, I suppose, because you really have to get to mass battlecruisers, and that is a trick.
Yes.
You can't just have 4 or 5. But he is going to be going for Liberator, Viking, Ghost, and that is like pretty much the most powerful thing that Terrans can go for. You're going to see very few, if any, of the other bio units. That's why he's been giving them away. And it's just so powerful. I mean, obviously it's got a weakness if it's not sieged up, then sure enough, or it's not being paid attention to. Like, obviously it's still micro-dependent, but it is really scary for the Protoss to handle a Terran who's good at microing that composition.
SDV's being donated over the left-hand side as well. Maru's just like, yeah, you know, I don't really need these, quite honestly, right? He's just, I mean, I'm surprised he turned them away. I guess trying to scout, but he also has endless amounts of scans. So I don't know the story of those SCVs, but they're out on the map, guys. Yeah, I mean, as carries continue to build, this is obviously going to start being a deal where they both look for that late-game fight. Oh, is that the plan, to start just turreting around the map? Okay, sure. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I guess so. They are going to be destroyed. Observer. Oh, nope, we're not. Just kidding. All right, they're going to stay there then. They're good.
The joke's on you, ZG.
Yeah, it really is.
Everyone was laughing about me not calling those Widow Mines a disaster earlier on game number 2, and you called the turrets dying. They didn't.
This is even more embarrassing.
Happens to all of us.
I think they are being found, though, so.
Okay, you went that wrong.
Yeah, I wasn't that wrong. But more being placed down in a more expected position, which is where Maru wants to push. That's what I'm talking about. He's able to both defend a lot of his newer expansions and push to his opponent's still important expansions without too much micro in between. He just gets sieged up, plants a bunch of stack defense, and then, you know, kind of says, you come to me. And Maru's army is so damn good. EMP Viking Liberator with 2 Ravens, so the anti-armor missile plus any interference matrix will be extremely helpful. And even some, like, you know, situational nukes, trying to open up some space, ward off any aggression. They can continue doing that.
I just love this slow push with turrets. It's going to make it, like, usually if you become the aggressor, the downside is you don't have your stack defense. But now they're both going to have stack defense in this big fight, which is going to be, honestly, kind of wild. I don't know what Zest really does to approach this. I know he was at some point building some Tempests. It doesn't look like he let those finish up at all, so he obviously decided against them. But this is kind of the situation where Tempests are actually kind of really good again. Fight from afar, weaken up some structures, you get tectonic destabilizers, you can shoot down the turrets quickly. But obviously that's not quite happening here, as I love this. I mean, we're going back to Zest versus Raynor, recalling down to the bottom side. I was going to say that south side of the map, Maru's put a lot of faith that just nothing's going to die there. And I kind of see why. That is a campaign mission.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Nukes are going to land over here, but eventually this will be pushed in. I mean, there's just like Zest. I mean, he's going to buy as much time as possible, but it feels like eventually loses stack defense, and then we'll see if he actually decides to pull the trigger on the defense. But it's about the mothership by the looks of things. It is still situated. Like, when it recalls, it'll be quite the investment. Oh, it got recalled back.
Yeah, it got recalled back home. I think because Maru saw it on the sensor tower or so, and so it just didn't quite work out.
Everywhere.
Yeah, he just decided to pull it back and maybe use it. Is he going to try and... It's still just up to the
I think he just wants 2 options, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's smart, though. Like, the mothership goes one place, his army goes the other. Wherever there's hopefully a weakness, he's going to actually use that position. We even have Flux Veins on the way. I mean, and it's opening up opportunities for composition, at least for Zest. As he floats by and into it. No, oh my God, what's going to work? The recall will happen, but oh my God, that's so many missile turrets. The carriers are here, though, and Maru probably was not expecting this to actually go off. Gets an anti-armor missile, and then EMPs as well, but he's not quite situated. It's awkward as Zest kind of runs around the army into a planetary, bops that pretty damn quick, but Maru has been sniping a lot of units. Yeah. And that's still going to, you know, be good for him. Even as he loses the top right, he might be able to retake it.
Yeah, I mean, this is just expensive for Zest. He loses so much. It was a crazy move. It was a crazy play. Wait, I mean, he's just stuck there, right? Because he recalled the mothership, so I assume that's on recall. He's going to try and come through with these stalkers to help push it back, so he is going to get his army out of the top corner. Now Maru is going to start losing a good chunk of resources in those invested turrets. I mean, these Vikings still coming through, though. So many carriers have gone down, right? You've lost 6 out of 8 carriers in this fight, and Maru is instantly rebuilding. Zest has money, but his army is just very slow to rebuild, even slower than this Terran army, which is very teched up. Oh, that Disruptor combo goes down as well. Some more losses for Zest, who warps in Stalkers. I'm worried about how many Stalkers he's ending up with, because they're just not necessarily going to trade super well if everything gets sieged up, EMPs go off, and all of that goodness.
Yeah, I really liked the idea if all the stalkers were there from the get-go, because basically Maru was like, okay, my liberators aren't in place, like siege isn't here, but I can get a couple of quick EMPs, that's easy enough. And then I can just micro all day long with my Vikings, which is exactly what he did. They were entirely balled up, which is supposed to be a bit of like a weakness of it. They get stormed, they get Archon blasted, or stalkers are underneath them, and it just wasn't. So, I mean, Maru was, caught off guard. He did also take losses, but he was able to kind of calmly figure that situation out. And then rebuild the late-game army, and Zest rebuilt a mid-late game army.
Lovely save on the command center, retaking the top right-hand base. So here's the interesting thing. Neither of them have taken their forward base, but Maru is taking the top right, while Zest doesn't take bottom left. So Zest right now does need to take a base or keep denying top right. But he needs one of those things at least in his favor because he's traded worse so far. And that's why he's the player making the moves. I think Maru is confident with what's been happening in this game, the position he's in. That's a lot of Liberators, my goodness.
Oh my god.
Can you even afford that many Liberators? I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's most of his army.
Yeah.
16 Liberators, my god, that's a lot.
That's terrifying as well, because if they unsiege and shoot at interceptors, it's just like zap, your interceptors are gone.
Yeah, that's one of those rare scenarios where Liberators anti-air actually affects something. The mules come down to save this planetary from a very humiliating defeat. A couple stalkers killing it would have been bad. But the stalker play, I can see how it actually wants to work. I mean, it's able to take down some of these tag defense. Obviously, it catches Liberators out of position. But as you're talking about the EMPs plus the upgrades, I mean, it just makes the stalkers look like paper. And now Maru is once again pushing into a vulnerable area for Zest. Zest decides, how do I handle this? I guess I'll counterattack, but guess what? There's 16 Liberators. Yeah. There's enough to defend 2 or even 3 choke points.
I mean, it's just the combo of EMPs and Liberator fire. The Stalkers just melt, and that's why I didn't like the rebuild on all those Stalkers. Yeah, he bounces back quickly, but with an army that's just so much worse than what he once had, and he's going to try and counterattack, and mobility is his best friend here. He needs to attack around Maru, and that's quite obvious by the fact that these fights are just not going his way. But Maru is one of the best players at just systematically moving his army around wherever it's necessary, and he is doing just that. And can I just say, ZG, that we didn't criticize, but we called out the double Raven build. They are still alive. They are finding so much value over time. They've had so many chances to cast abilities. That's incredible. Another recall to the top right. The play from Maru here, from Zest here, sorry. This is not his base once again, but that's just a necessary play, given the fact he just lost his 12 o'clock.
Yeah, I really wish Zest would take the bottom left, and he finally does. As he also looks to maybe get another base. That's definitely not going to be allowed, however, as he is forced to pull back. He still has a bigger bank, but he's lost so many more resources. And taking this fight seems a little questionable. Actually, all of his army isn't even here. So I'm surprised he stuck around as long as he did. A couple of the Colossus, the Immortals were away. Zest is already down 60 supply. He's heavily EMP'd. He's got Dorito dust on all of his carriers. I don't know why he's actually trying to stick around. He does finally pull back entirely and just tries to micro with his stalkers, but the damage had already been done. Zest takes an atrocious trade. Not that any of the recent ones have been good. And he loses this Nexus again. And now he's got to deplete his bank. I mean, and it's all going into carriers.
It is like a roller coaster drop of doom in the army supply graph after that fight. It is disgusting. And it really was just that situation where, the EMPs, the libs get sieged, but he didn't even have to siege all his libs, and so he could keep on pushing forward and sieging more and more. And those carriers were really struggling to get away because they were being chased by Vikings. So he's like, maybe I need a fight to protect them. He keeps more alive than I thought he would, to be honest.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I like the rebuild, at least carrier disruptor instead of just all of those stalkers. That gives me a lot more hope. I just wonder if this is way too far gone, as he has 12,000 resources lost behind.
Oh my god.
That's a lot.
He scans the entire map, basically.
Yeah, he's been doing that all game, ZG. He's had a ridiculous amount of command centers.
He did scan like 6 times in the bottom left, but I believe this was like 12 times.
I don't
12 orbitals.
It is getting crazy. It is getting kind of ridiculous. The amount of scans and vision he can have, Maru, is just like map hack activated.
Yeah, right? Yeah, he sees literally everything. Zest does kind of feel like he just wants like to catch Maru so out of position that he can kind of just like, force his way through into siege units, but I feel like it's not really working out that way. Even if the Liberators aren't actively involved in the beginning of the fight, they get there, in enough time with nothing really stopping them, that they still end up winning no matter what Zest has caught unsieged or not. And with the Void Rays being added, I feel like that just is another way of trying to be like, I hope I catch you in one gigantic battle, when I feel like other Protosses would have done the dance. They would have done the Tempest, Oracle, sniping units, holding on to High Templars away from the Ghost. You know, we've definitely seen some very, I guess, different late-game Protoss. I love that Zest is trying to be mobile, and the Mothership stuff is so cool, but direct fights just aren't working out for him.
I'm like crazy. Why is Zest's army in his natural? Like, I thought he was like stacking up for a Mothership recall, but there's no Mothership. That was so weird. I have no explanation for why it's chilling over there for us. I mean, in the end, it didn't really matter. Maru wasn't anywhere to take advantage of that. As I feel like this is, I mean, there's 48 missile turrets on the map right now. I mean, to be fair, ZG, this really is like a Maru classic, right? Sometimes he just plays these games where he says, I'm going to play late, I'm not going to do much, and I'm just going to duel you late game. And he has out-dueled Zest by 12,000 resources still. He's maybe going to deny this bottom left. All it comes down to is Maru just needs to keep mining one base over Zest, or even keeping the base count equal, and that's exactly what he's doing with moves like this.
That's
a triple nuke.
And an EMP. I think he's got that Nexus skilled. Zest is again going to try and find undefended base, and that's only a couple of units trying to go for it. So this makes sense. You saw a lot of the army to the bottom left. One nuke after another gets the kill. It is going to be a base trade, base for base. But this is where Zest is usually stopped. He can't get more from finding Maru out of position. And this is doesn't look too different to me. The Liberators siege up on those chokes on that high ground. The Vikings are here, and that is it for Zest's damage.
Yeah, no, it's pretty... That's the thing, though, right? You kill top right, and Maru has just killed the bottom left, so you lose a base for a base, and Zest needs better than that. Zest isn't mining his 12 o'clock. He's just trying to get the central base up. And these are bases which Maru has got control of, has mined out. And that's just the issue. Like, Zest is genuinely running out of gas. Like, he has not mined gas for a long time. His gas income is 200 per minute, and it's actually dropping even further. I feel like he's just now transferring some probes. Like, his last assimilator mined out. Yeah, he's got a couple probes over here, and then I guess he's got the Rich Vespine gas in the center, which he's not mining from, and he needs to, because gas is his issue. As Maru might actually have minerals as a problem sometime soon. He's built so many turrets. Here he goes, EG. Big fight gonna break out. Carriers are gonna start putting the work in. We're kind of waiting for Maru's army to show up, and here it is as the Lips siege up, and the Vikings are here to play.
They're already targeting down each carrier individually. Not much to stop them either, as the Stalkers warded away by the Liberators. Void Rays weren't actively involved either. He did get that last little focus fire on the planetary, but didn't kill this orbital. And to be honest, Maru has plenty of command centers to throw around. And if he starts losing, 10 command centers, then I'll worry. But not until then. It just is the past experiences of the game kind of tell the future. Zest has not taken a great fight, and as he gets farther and farther down on the resources, even though Maru is also, I guess, not at a Remax bank, he's not at 8,000, he's going to take a better fight. That is what the last 31 minutes have told us. Zest has got to have something different actually involved in the fight. He is finding perhaps Maru a little more out of position than previous ones. And we got ourselves another base trade, one orbital for one Nexus. Zest is going to actually continue with it though. And no, or not. There is a bit of an opening into the third, but then he would be locked there, and that might be a little too scary.
SDVs, a few going down. I mean, he's going to keep on fighting this bottom side. The Liberators are showing up. The Vikings are here. And we are going to see... I mean, these Void Rays, ZG, I can understand if you get into a fight, the Voids can power up, and it's going to be great, but I feel like the Vikings can just kite them for days upon days. Zest is truly, like... he's not mined out, right? But he's got so few resources to work with. At the moment, if he was to lose a unit, he genuinely would not be able to replace it. That's the current situation we're in. And yeah, I mean, that's really tough, because if Maru can just deny the bases that Zest needs to take, then Zest is only going to be ever on this army and this army only. And there's just no way you make this happen with one big trade. Maru's army is just too good for that to happen. Yep, there goes one of the bases that Zest needs, cancelled once a game. I mean, this is where you've got to be trying to take the bottom left at the same time, but he's also not rich enough to just expand everywhere.
I mean, he could have done it sooner and thus for longer in a lot of this game, actually.
Yeah, I do agree.
And that might have been a lot more of a gas bank to still feel like you got a chance in this game. Gets the last second cancel. All right, that's fair enough.
Maru's like, I'm gone, and then he like canceled after, and Maru's like, wait, he did cancel. Cool.
Yeah, he's here. And more scans coming down from Maru, just like keep him informed as to whether or not he's actually winning. And now he's actually at a pretty good bank, where before he's been kind of suppressed around 2,000. Now he's gone up to 4,000. Still hasn't taken a bad fight. Both of them having lost a lot of workers. They have a very high army supply. All the upgrades have finished. Zest is actually going to go deep into Maru's third base, get some of the Ghost Academies, get some more orbitals, and then if he takes out the third, I guess he also gets this fourth over here. But, I mean, orbital kills still don't matter. He needs to kill, like, you know, an army, and more than one army at this point. At least it's something.
Yeah, I mean, Maru's like, oh no, the base I mined out 10 minutes ago, right? Like, I've had this base for so long. Yeah, his gases are mined out. There's like half a mineral patch left over there. A couple libs he forgot about maybe as well to, you know, defend from the left-hand side attacks. I mean, Maru just going to set up libs. Even just losing a disruptor or two could be painful as one-shot fires. I mean, these Vikings are just like, well, what's really going to stop us? A couple of ghosts underneath. They drop the EMPs on Stalkers, and they can just fall back to the Liberation Zones. I mean, the unit counts here are ridiculous. There are 44 Vikings on this map. I mean, the carriers are just going to melt. And the thing is with Vikings, they can also land if they need to and join the fight in that regard. If
that was the problem. I'm not expecting it to be, but Zest is still trying to find the army out of position, and he has been finding a little bit more success. If he gets on top of the production, that is a classic weakness of Terran, but the army has always been the issue, so I'm not even sure it's the weakness of this particular Terran. It would still be scary and something that Maru absolutely does not want to have to even worry about. He is starting to expand more and more often with orbitals, but that's, I mean, that's just because he isn't bothering to build more command centers. He could. He's got almost 5,000 minerals, and he's getting away with it too. Every time he lands an orbital and calls down 12 orbitals, or maybe 8 now, I guess, worth of mules, I mean, he mines out a lot, so feeling pretty comfortable doing that. Still continuing to nuke. Zest, he might have some pretty damn good late game PvZ, but his late game PvT is really tested. Oh, he doesn't even notice the nuke.
No.
Oh, it's the rest of his probes. All right, now he's on the 12 probes. At least that evens it up, I guess, because they both killed 13 workers.
12 workers go down. Oh, 12 workers left each, just 13 go down on each side of this map. And just looking at what's been lost this game, Maru lost 75 missile turrets, and I actually think those missile turrets are the majority of what Zest needed to kill to make up the difference in resources lost. I mean, that is like 7,500 minerals of turrets. That really is something. At the end of the day, Zest is the one that has to fight into an ultra-defensive army of Maru still. And he's going to do it right now. Here he goes, Zombie Grub. The Fortress are going to activate. The Vikings are going to try and run out of there. I mean, the Liberators go down very quickly. Did they do their job? Did they get rid of enough on the ground? The Ghosts are going down as well as Maru just refuses to fight with those Vikings.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to fight. I mean, I can see why all of the Interceptors were out. The Void Rays were sharking around. The EMP had already hit, so that's kind of what the Ghost was meant to do. And he's going to not take a fight, even if it's a little bit questionable. He's going to back away, wait, and get back into the mode of kiting. However, that means, yeah, his production is now going to be camped, and Zest had a Warp Prism or two actually involved there, so he warps in Stalkers to ward away the Vikings. This is what Zest wanted to get to, and Maru, he didn't want it to happen. He's not happy this has happened. This is actually his chance, Zest's chance to bring it back. The nuke looks hype, but I do believe Zest was able to spot it, and he has a recall if he ever does have to leave, which doesn't seem like he has to. Maru has initiated a bit of his own counter as the supplies have evened up. Maru has a ton in the bank, but no production.
I'm surprised he doesn't have production even starting elsewhere on the map right now. You know, even just a couple extra starports or something. He has to start a new factory again. He could have definitely built that sooner. I mean, all of this, right? He could have built just that little bit earlier on. He's going to rebuild everything now, but that's a pretty major sink in his money. You know, that's money which he wanted to spend rebuilding. And again, right now he can't rebuild, and he's got to rebuild those structures. Zest does not have that bottom left base, and if he did, he might actually just end this game with a little bit more money, a few more units. He's still got a lot of turrets to fight through, as it looks like Zest is stacking up the recall out of here. And he does escape away. I mean, credit to Zest. He knew the weak point of Maru was going to be getting on top of the production. He got there.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by how afraid he was with the Vikings? He just ran. He didn't even feel like he kited as much.
Not as much. I feel like that was a better scenario for Zest because he didn't kind of like fight into a ready EMP in Vikings. There was a little bit more of a delay. So I could definitely see why Maru was afraid. Plus, I think Maru is aware that he is dependent on army fights. Even, like, he doesn't know Zest's bank. He knows how much he would possibly be able to remax, and even with the 5,000 he used to have, his army is also expensive. So I really respect the patience there. Was it over-patience? Was that actually an issue? Might be. Losing that production and not saving it sooner could be one of the biggest deals in this game. As Zest finally takes that bottom left again, I will say that Maru is probably going to look after Zest's own bases next, which are kind of still healthy because they've been denied so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was about to say. I was like, actually, Maru's in a position where he has to stop Zest mining, right? Because now Maru's trading a bit worse than Zest is. The roles from earlier have kind of reversed. But Zest does have resources available on the map. Maru's going to protect his top right base initially. And then my issue for him is he's investing so much infrastructure up there. What about this base? Like, can he ever take that base and mine that himself? Does he need to? If Zest doesn't mine the 12 o'clock and that base on his own side of the map, maybe he doesn't need to take that base.
That is a good point.
Which, with how many turrets he's building, I feel like has got to be the case unless this gets super crazy and like low eco. I know it's low eco right now, but you know what I mean? Like, unless everything trades out, armies get much smaller and turrets don't matter. I just don't see how you take that base, considering right now you're hoping to fight with all of those turrets. I mean, it's a little bit wild right now, Zombie Grove. This is not... I mean, these are just kind of the situations you don't see every day. And, well, Zest and Maru both putting on a heck of a performance.
I'm not super surprised with the last 10 minutes of Zest kind of like angling for the production. I was like, yeah, okay, I could see how this is going to go into like a topsy, like the around the clock, like let's all move together. But it is definitely a type of game you don't see very often. This is what Maru has been dominating with, the ability to one-shot these capital ships while also migrating back into something safer like ghosts, like missile turrets. That's why his resource trades have been so efficient. I mean, most of the time they still are, or they actually are not at this point. Oh, wow, yeah. Still, for a lot of the game it was.
Yes, for a lot of the game it was. It was the last fight losing all the production, etc., that really changed that around, and a lot of the turrets that went down. What's really... So, I feel like this is an issue now for Zest, is that he just hasn't had a lot of probes, right? So even taking a base, he's not mining a lot. His Stalker count's been whittled down, so he hasn't actually had an answer to Vikings now kiting and shooting from afar. And because of that, Maru just got some really valuable pickoffs, and suddenly Zest's army maybe doesn't even seem as competitive any longer. And Maru's going to get down to deny this bottom left base, and we've just been talking about how important it is for Zest to have this base. Or, I mean, 8 of Zest's 10 probes in this game are in this bottom left corner. Looks like Zest just wants to go for it, fighting away from any of the stack defense of the Terran player. Here we go, and EMP goes down. Can the Vikings get the job done? They're going to start working their way through carries. A massive storm goes down, Zombie Grub, as it looks as though Maru is still committed. Storm after storm, but Maru is crashing on through.
Oh, those storms, man. If the army was like 20 or 30 army supply bigger and they had happened sooner, could have changed the outcome of this game.